Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Brandon. If you're new here, this channel is all about adventure motorcycle riding. And if you like watching an overweight guy ride a motorcycle through the woods, you're in the right place, and I'm happy to have you here. I also share my love-hate relationship with my KLR 650s. The content in today's video definitely goes into the hate category of that relationship, as we'll be drilling holes in the KLR to fix a problem that is easily preventable but often overlooked. So if you're a KLR owner, you're not going to want to miss this one. We'll see you in the garage. I might not actually use this drill. We'll see.
Warning. The content of this video are for educational purposes only. The instructions in this video are not given by a motorcycle mechanic, just a normal guy in his garage. You should consult with a motorcycle mechanic prior to making any changes to your motorcycle. To complete this project, you will need the following.
So here's how lucky I got. I got the bike up on the jack because I was going to install the JNS lowering foot peg mounts. Raised the bike up on the lift. As I was strapping the bike down, I noticed the foot peg wobble a little bit, and I grabbed onto it, and it was literally that loose. I do have a center stand installed on this bike, so I don't know if clearly the bolt lost its torque at some point, created some issues here. This cage has a couple nuts that are basically just tack welded on the back. I don't even know if you could call them nuts. It's a thin piece of metal. I think there's 4 threads on there. The bolts, because they came loose, this front one is stripped out, and the nut on this one completely, the weld broke right off, so it's floating around and there's no threads at all. I got lucky because if that would have broken or those bolts would have come out when I was on the highway or standing up in the woods, it's a good way to break a leg. Thankfully, the good thing about having a 20-year-old bike is I did some research. At least on the Gen 1s, this was an issue. I have to assume that it's, an issue all the way through Gen 3. I don't think they changed anything with the frame or how the foot pegs are mounted. And it's only an issue if you don't keep them torqued. So it's important to check these, often, especially if you're riding off road. But even if you're keeping it on road, double check these torques, make sure these are snug. Because like I said, there's about 4 threads in there. If these back out even just a little bit, it's going to end up stripped. You're going to have issues. So initially, my thought was, oh, this sucks. I'm going to have to cut this cage off to get to the back side of this, to weld some new nuts on or something. But there was a fix. It's a known issue. I'm not the first one to run into this, but essentially how it works is I'm going to drill these out and kind of counter drill them. And I got these 8mm nuts with the flange on them. These are going to inset in there. They're basically, it's going to be as flush as I can get it. And then I'm going to tack weld these in. I went with the 8mm nut. I know there were quite a few people that used a 10mm, a little bulkier bolt, but then, you have to drill out your brackets wider, your center stand. So I went with the stock 8mm, 1.25 thread pitch. I think that'll prevent me from having to do that. Yeah, I'm either going to really mess this up or it's going to work. But essentially, yeah, you just counter drill them out so this fully sits in there, and then it kind of sits on the flange of the nut, and then tack weld around it, grind it flush. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Let's see how it turns out.
Me.
Trying to fish this welded nut out, but I don't think the hole is big enough yet. Hopefully this encourages people to check the torque of their foot peg bolts more often. Not going to come out yet. Back to drilling. I don't want this nut to live in here. Come on. I'll be right back. All right, guys, I don't know if you can see this, but this is the nut that comes welded on. And there's not much to it. Glad I got that out. And here's what we'll be replacing it with. Oh, don't tell me I lost the other one, huh? All right, guys, just to give you an idea what this looks like, I got the nuts in. And all that's left to do is to weld these guys on, and then I'll grind it flat. But I guarantee you this is going to be stronger than what comes stock. And here's a shot with the factory bolts in there, factory 8mm bolts. If you end up having to do this, I would say that the 8mm nuts work just fine. Again, this saves me from having to drill out the foot peg mounts and the center stand. All right, guys, here it is after the weld. It's not the prettiest thing in the world, but those nuts are not coming out of there. And this is way stronger than stock. And all I got left to do is I might grind it down a little more to get some of those pockets out, and then I'll get some spray paint and get that touched up so that it doesn't rust, and then get it mounted back up. Well, that was a project, but it goes to show how a little preventative maintenance by just checking to make sure that your foot peg bolts are holding their torque can save you a lot of work. But if you're too late and you find yourself in this predicament, I hope this video shows how you can get through the process. It's not too terribly bad. I'm confident that these are going to hold up for miles to come on or off road. I know some guys use helicoil inserts. I couldn't use that in this situation with that nut being gone on the backside. There was just not enough meat for me to drive an insert into. Don't forget your Loctite either. I keep forgetting to say that. Take your bolts out, throw some Loctite on there, and torque them down. You should be good. And just check it periodically. Make sure you guys tune in next week, as I'll be covering another upgrade, this time on the Gen 1 as well. But this is an upgrade that I swear by. You should do it on your Gen 1, your Gen 2, and your Gen 3. There's a little bit of controversy surrounding it. It seems like anytime that it's brought up in a Facebook group or something like that, guys lose their mind over it. But I do it. I'll explain why, and I'll show you the results. It's not the doohickey. We'll see you next week.